peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, viewers. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you very much for watching Punchline Africa Television, broadcasting all the way from the Republic of Kenya in Nairobi for Miriam and myself from the Political Command Center in London. Thank you very much. This is a diaspora, sorry, this is a diplomatic leagues. Diplomatic Leagues is one of the programs that we go behind the diplomatic gossip. We find out what the diplomats really say, what type of intelligence is being gathered against Africa. We expose the ills that are heaped on Africa. This show is a Pan-African show amongst our shows. But we bring it under Diplomatic Leagues because it touches very many diplomats. There are some diplomats, political attaches, who want to talk to us regarding what is going on in Africa and what they have got from Africa. Today, I'm pleased to tell you that we have on the panel quite a number of people. We have Mr. Motion Matamai from Harare. Mr. Matamai, good morning.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, the panel. Good morning, Africa.
Thank you very much for joining us. We have Professor Gerard Onyari. Good morning. If Professor is still very far, we have Saxon. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Good morning, Dr. Masanga, Miriam, our fellow panelists, and our viewers from wherever they are.
Thank you very much for joining this show. We have Saxon Vima from Harare. Good morning.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, panelists, and good morning, the viewers.
Thank you. Lastly, on this end of Kenya, we have Javani Karanja. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. David Masanga, and good morning to our viewers and my fellow panelists. Good morning.
And in the studio, we have Madame Miriam Ogutu, who will be leading us along and asking us questions whether Africa will ever integrate and when. Mine is an overview of 2 minutes. When Nkrumah cried for unity for Africa, many people thought Nkrumah was mad. Many people came out and told Nkrumah, you will not last long. Many people pointed the fingers at Nkrumah and said he is a sellout. Many people thought Nkrumah was bidding on behalf of Western powers to unite so that they can collect their money and the resources from Africa. But Nkrumah, in 1957, when Ghana was getting its independence, Nkrumah said, let there be unity. Let there be unity. Political unity was paramount. Economic unity will come later on. A united Africa, politically, if it speaks with one voice, can deliver us from all the evils we have today. As we speak today, Africa is united by letters, the AU. When you see AU with a green flag, you think you have seen a united Africa. But when you go deep to discuss, to find out what exactly is in AU, you find a shell of empty, disorganized, disintegrated, dismembered states. The dismembered states create tension for Africa. A dismembered continent, a continent that has no values, a continent that cannot speak in one voice, a continent that eats from one mouth, throws from the other, a continent that cannot make a cohesive, coherent decision. If they are to move out of ICC, a continent of Africa, you will find some countries saying, we are going to ICC. If you say you want to embargo European Union, there are some countries will say, we have gone. We are already in Madrid. If you say you want to play African football, they say, no, let's play the style of Europe. This is the continent we have. If you say we want no visa, another country will say we need more visas to enter South Africa, for example. Strict laws. If we say we want African trade, the continental trade, some countries say, no, wait, let me fly home and consult my wife, then come back and sign. No country in Africa could sign. A few countries like Kenya signed there and then because they needed the trade to flow in Africa. Can Africa integrate? My direct answer, Miriam, is no. Never, it will, for now, I have reasons. I am not an opportunist, but I am a pessimist. I think I have pessimism. But there are certain things where I am really a vocal and I know it will happen. This one will not. You know why? How can you unite a continent? How do you unite a continent of Africa when in actual sense, one country has a leader of 20 who has been there for 42 years? Welcome to the show, Abigail Mupambi Musa Haji from Kenya, Philip Chabata from Harare, Abigail Mupambi from Harare. Welcome to the show. Musa from Kenya in Isiolo. Welcome to the show. Africa cannot unite, Miriam. And let's not lie each other here. We sit on this, we have Zoom. It reaches Kampala, it becomes taxable. Some man taxes it. He said, before you Google on Zoom, give me some money. 4% tax. And yet in the whole world, in the airport, in the ocean, Atlantic Ocean, you can be in Pacific Ocean traveling like Mr. Chabata does everywhere around the world. Chabata is a high flyer in planes. Every place of the world Mr. Chabata has reached. You can use internet for free. When you reach certain African countries, they say before you pay this tax, you will not have internet. Yet the Muzungu has given this thing to us for free. The younger man from America gave this internet for free. We in Africa tax it. Can we unite? Can we integrate? 42 years you are still in power. I will not mention my own country because the rest can mention. Because for me, that man wants to hear me mention that country. Then he starts doing his head like this. There are people there mentioning me. So I will leave this to the panel to mention. I will mention Cameroon. I will mention Equatorial Guinea, where leaders have been there for over 40 years. Can Africa unite with such people? You carry out elections every 5 years. But somewhere in Africa, elections are never carried out. Can you unite? You change leaders. Mr. Paul Robia has been there. Tanzania has changed 6 presidents. America has changed 6, about 4 since Paul Robia became a leader of Cameroon. So Africans who are listening to this talk, to this show, tell me, how do you unite with a man who has been there 42 years, who has imprisoned all opposition leaders? Mr. Paul Robia has put them for life and thrown the keys in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, can Africa unite with such behavior? Another factor that makes me very worried about Africa, Miriam, is the question of customs, visa, immigration. When you arrive in Johannesburg, Oliver Tambo Airport, it is as if you have reached hell. First, if I don't know how many things they have added on. If you don't have yellow fever, that yellow fever alone can make you not enter and see the next of Johannesburg hotel. They will deny you entry. They don't value whether you even borrowed that money to be able to buy a ticket. They don't care. They tell you are not entering Africa. In fact, this is the language they use at the airport in Johannesburg, Oliver Tambo. You are not entering. Welcome to Africa. And you say, but my plane has just come from Nairobi. Oh, Nairobi, Kenya, okay. But welcome to Africa. So, is this, and these are practical things. Abigail, Chabata, Saxon, and the rest, Matamai, these things are happening to our fellow Africans. As we sit on this panel, Miriam and the rest of the Kenyan panelists. The only airport where you are not discriminated is Harare. In Harare, you are allowed. Once you are in a COMESA, you go in. Kenyans don't need visa. Ugandans don't need visa. They don't ask you many questions. But if a country in Africa can make it very difficult for you to just go and eat food there, how do you expect integration to come? When shall we integrate? How can we integrate? Those who can look at the pictures of Savimbi, General Savimbi, Agustini Noto, and Alubeto. Most of you on this panel who are young, apart from Chabata and the rest. Chabata has grown. It says he's younger, but he's very old, like me. Chabata, myself, we saw Savimbi.
Even Professor saw
Savimbi and the professor, yes. We saw Savimbi. The late President Jomo Kenyatta, because of Pan-African spirit, those are the type of things why people like Kenya. Kenya has a president who likes Pan-Africanism. You know what they did? He brought them to Kenya, put them on a table. Agustini Neto, Alberto, and Savimbi to negotiate the Angolan peace process. No sooner had they planes left to go in the airspace, then each of them went in a different direction. They started hammering each other. Can Africa integrate if we cannot unite in our own countries? If elections, which is another point as I close my remarks, an election in Africa makes people not feel like, I don't think Ghana would like to join its hands with Somalia. You tell me, how can Ghana join hands with Somalia? The president of Somalia called senators at night and they signed an agreement to extend his 4-year term to rule for 4 years without consultation. Can you look at that? Now, you tell me Ghana, which holds free and fair elections, can be part and parcel of Somalia, where elections are do or die, death. If you wait longer, you'll die. So, can Africa integrate? If so, when? I submit, I myself, as I welcome Douglas Kirimi to the show and hand it over back to Miriam from the Political Command Center in London, I hand it over to you that it is impossible. Madam, if there is anybody here who has a reason to convince me. But I don't think even East Africa can unite when you have Magufuli saying there is no corona. And then now Magufuli is telling us, please tell the world corona is killing us. So can Africa unite? When we have Burundi saying there's no corona, and God just came and plucked out the president, direct Nkurunziza. He said, you are the one who said there's no corona. Took Mr. Nkurunziza. Finished him. A very vibrant younger man who should be fighting corona with the immunity, because he was not even over 55 yet. But God said you will not come back. So can Africa unite? Can Africa unite if a person is being shot in Cape Town? Assassination squads are sent to assassinate a political opponent in Cape Town. Did you hear that, Miriam? Your dispatches. Rwanda opposition leader was assassinated while delivering furniture. They called him to deliver furniture, but the people who called him were Rwandese. They killed him. Those type of tricks, can we survive? Can Africa unite? Can you unite with someone who tells you, I'm coming tonight? And Mr. Chavata, you better move quickly. If I find you, can you unite with a president who says, who can come out and say, the men like this Matanga here, in this conference hall, this one in Uganda, in my country, no, I do not mention the country. In my country, we liquidate, we finish, we eliminate. I was totally like that. In a hall, I started shivering myself. It's not a lie. 1991, 92, I shivered in a hall in London, in a civilized place. Someone told me, you, and the people were saying, point of order. Point of order. This can't be. He changed the language and said, point of order, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but for us in Uganda, we take them on, we finish them. So the chairman said the meeting has been postponed. A great meeting of Chamber of Commerce for the British industry under Uganda. So here we are. Can Africa unite when we have different forms of leadership? I submit, and I will now keep quiet and watch from behind. Each of you have 2 minutes, so that we quickly sum up, and the media should not have had the time. If you see this red phone appearing here like this, it means it is over. Please don't speak beyond that. I'm requesting so that Miriam, I will be your timekeeper. And anybody seeing the red phone like this, standing up on my phone, on my thing like this, it means there is a red card coming for you. Let's go. To me, I've submitted. It cannot. When, I don't know, maybe when Jesus returns, but I don't think Africa will unite.
All right. Doctor, thank you for that introduction. And of course, Africa integration was a dream of the continent's founders, and they found a need even for them to form Organization of African Unity, because they thought it was important for Africa to come together, as they realized, together we stand and divided we fall. And truly that has been what has been ailing the continent of Africa, because we've seen blocs like EU, how they thrive together. They've been able to be united. So just to start us off, perhaps I'd like to know from you, Motion Matamai, what are some of the factors that you think have been hindering this elusive African unity?
Thank you, Miriam. A number of factors are just an obstacle to unity. And by that statement, I concur with Dr. Matsanga that uniting Africa, or having something like a United States of Africa, remain a dream in a pipeline that I hardly see coming to fruition. You see, I remember the Senegalese President Wade saying by 2017 we'll be having a United States of Africa. And last year I heard the AU at their meeting saying we have now moved it to 2025. And I know they are going to move it again. I know. You see, Africa cannot have, we cannot have a united Africa for the few reasons that I'm going to mention. Number one, the Western influence. The West will never tolerate a united Africa, because a united Africa will become too powerful for them to pursue their own imperialist agendas. Secondly, we have a barrier in terms of language, Miriam. Look, Africa has got an excess of over 2,000 languages from various tribes, over 3,000 tribes in Africa, and that in itself is an obstacle to unite Africa. Look at, I remember Ismalema, who suggested that we may use
We seem to be having a problem there with the motions.
As the official language of Africa. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Sure. And yes, we can use Swahili to try to mitigate the challenge of language barrier. But do you know the cost of trying to do that now with this Africa whose leaders don't want to fund anything, who are prepared to receive donations from the West, and you think the West can fund you to have your own unique language in your continent? I don't think they will. And I understand AU is not prepared or doesn't have a plan to have a common African language. They don't have the plan. I would also talk about the nature of Africa in terms of a continent with over 3,000 tribes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw the red card. I'm leaving.
No, you can finish since you are.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
And me, I'm just doing timekeeping. Yes.
Less than 30 seconds. I'll wind up.
Yes, sir.
So I'm saying, the issue of autonomy in Africa, where all tribes want the right to lead, will always be an obstacle. And as such, in the interim, in the soonest possible time, I don't see Africa uniting. I think there should be something else. Look at how we adopt a number of Western approaches, visas, passport issues. So those are obstacles. So for now, I will end here.
All right. Thank you so much. So you've said one of the key things is Western influence, and a united Africa is an idea that cannot be tolerated by the Westerners there. I don't know, what is your opinion on that, Saxon?
Whom have you called, Miriam?
Saxon.
Saxon.
Okay, I think I concur with what Moshen said. And I think we have had efforts by the late Muammar Gaddafi, who was, a champion for United States of Africa. And look what happened to him. He was eliminated because he had a vision. Most of our leaders who were Pan-Africanists, who believe in efforts to unite Africa, have been taken out. What we need, I think, the issue of language is a barrier. The issue of power retention, because if you say continent of Africa is expected to have 2.5 billion by 2050, it will be the largest in terms of population. How can we don't have systems to unite such kind of people because of language barriers, traditions, culture? There's a lot that needs to be done. I think the process efforts being made of having a United States of Africa in terms of free passport might maybe help to converge like a EU per se, not as a one country. Integration may be in terms of trade, maybe whilst nations exist individually, because it's too. It's a mammoth task to have people with 3,000 languages coming together. How they communicate, because everyone wants to have his or her views taken on board. Mm-hmm. So I believe it's a pipe dream, which needs a lot to be considered for Africa to be integrated. But we need to take on an issue of trade, having free trade, doing away with passports might help, might be the starting point. I submit. Okay,
thank you so much. And Professor Jared, we shall be leaving the conversation soon, so I'd like to hear your thoughts, Professor. Some of the factors that hinders the unity of this great continent, and as motion there brought out the issue of our languages. And forget the indigenous languages, we have so many of them in this continent, but we've seen a couple of African countries, we are divided, the Anglophones, the Francophones and all that. So this also is a key factor on the disunity in Africa, so that and others. I don't know, what is your opinion?
Yeah, very, very well, Miriam, for that question. And I want to associate myself with what my speakers before have said, particularly Dr. Masanga. Let me just have this to say on what Mahatma Gandhi once said. He said, "Show me one Christian who walks the footsteps of Jesus Christ and I become one. Don't preach to me, you only need to show me one." Miriam, apart from Muammar Gaddafi, was dreaming about the United States of Africa. Do we have any of the current Pan-African leaders? Do we have any? If the answer is no, or the affirmative, Miriam, then the integration for Africa will take wrong. Let me not rule that it will not happen. It will happen. In our lifetime, not perhaps, but in the future, it will happen. It will only happen, Miriam, if we address corruption in the continent of Africa. It will happen, Miriam, if we talk about the instability, we make Africa stable, Miriam. It will only happen, Miriam, if we remove undemocratic rule among the African leaders, Miriam, and we have democratic elections, Miriam. Miriam, it will only happen if we work towards civil strife so that we ensure that the continent of Africa enjoys peace. Miriam, with the continent of Africa will only be integration will happen, Miriam, if we look for adequate funding whereby we needed to have the African Bank so that we don't go for World Bank or International Monetary Fund, Miriam. It will only happen, Miriam, we will be able to address terrorism. Look at Boko Haram, look at Al-Shabaab, look at ISIS. Look at it, what's happening in the Maghreb region, Miriam. It will only happen, Miriam, we sincerely address conflict. Miriam, it will only happen if we open our borders. See what's happening between Uganda and Rwanda. Miriam, see what's happening with our brother down here during the time for the coronavirus, Miriam. He crossed the borders. He said there's no corona. There was so Miriam, these things will only happen, Miriam, if only African we will come together and address external interference. Yes, the issue about language, I'm persuaded, and at the same time not persuaded. The Chinese speak Chinese. I see this stop them from going forward. But if we can use it, it is a way of communication. But Miriam, if we address the points which Dr. Masanga did say and the ones which have raised, then Miriam, there will be integration of Africa. But in our lifetime, in the future, yes, because what we are trying to do, this is true integration of Africa. I can see Gubes from South Africa. I can see Abigail from Zimbabwe. I can see Douglas from Kenya. I can see Dr. Masanga from Uganda. Miriam, this is integration for Africa, Miriam. Where are other progressive forces which will come forward so that we start addressing? This work must not be left to us. It must be by everybody. Let us not leave anyone behind when it comes into addressing integration of Africa, Miriam.
All right, Professor, I hear you. Thank you so much. But when it comes to a language, it is a factor and also not a factor, but it is a bigger factor when it comes to the bigger platforms. When we see when Africa needs to speak in one voice, when Africa needs to rally behind an idea that will benefit all of the continent. We see.
Can I interject for half a second?
Go ahead.
For 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
Language, Chinese speak. Why Chinese are favored? They look the same. For us, we don't look the same. And let's open up that debate. It is very difficult to know your wife if you are in China. If you're Chinese, you must identify your wife with some format of a bangle or something. For us Africans, we are different. Look at Musa. He's different from me. So maybe that is where the problem is. That is why we don't find unity. That's why we have failed. Because the language for Chinese is called Mandarin.
But Professor, my point was when it comes to the bigger platform of the world politics, we find that Africa, we get divided through the Anglophones, the Francophones, the Arab speaking. So it becomes very difficult for us to come together as a continent and not lean towards our colonizers and the languages we adopted. So that is the perspective I was looking at it. But thank you so much for your input there.
Miriam, let me just have this. Dr. Masanga will support me in this. When you go to Europe, they speak so many languages, Miriam. It is not English. There are those who will enter the business of translating and do this. They speak their own languages. I have been to the conferences. I see this one's happening, Miriam. So what I want to say that, Miriam, when it comes, that why I wanted us to be safe, Miriam. Which language are you going to pick?
But they have a social contract. Europe has a social contract. Do you have a check to give Abigail at the end of the week? You don't have. How can you speak the same language when you slept hungry?
All right, let's move on now, and I'll bring in Jevan Karanja. Jevan, what are some of the factors that hinders the unity of this great continent of Africa? Jevan. For all, I'll go to Mr. Philip Chabata.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you, friends, and Dr. Masanga. Thank you so much. I'm really moved as I hear the exchanges of if Africa could unite, or what are the factors that can hamper the uniting of Africa. Yes, indeed, what some of our friends have said is very true.
Mr. Philip,
Foreign
I'm being told, being told for you to adjust your headroom, please.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
No, it's not very good.
It's not very good. All right, let me try again.
Better.
Can you hear me?
That is good. Thank you. That is okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying some of the things that our friends said about foreign foreign involvement in our affairs is one of the reasons why we cannot unite as Africans. Yes, you can see some of our leaders are always bought by some of these imperialists. Like some of them, we saw what happened with Dr. Chihombori with the Francophone group. And we saw what has been happening with some other leaders. If you try to stand up like Mugabe, start to stand up to the Westerners, they bunch them together, and they even pay some of our Africans to go against you. So I think that's one of the things that can hamper us. But I still have hope that one day Africa will unite, because I see some trends, I see some God raising some people in Africa that can make that to happen. And very soon, I think we will begin to see some synergies, some working together, and hence finally getting it to be a united Africa. It will come to be, but there are certain people that must move out of the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Musa, what do you say to that? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm back, Miriam.
Oh, you're back. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. I had a technical hiccup, but I'm back.
That's okay.
Let me make my contribution.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam, the first question that I would like to ask myself, and why do we need to unite? Are Africans ready to unite? Do we have a common goal? Do we have an objective to why we need to join hands as Africans? And our leaders in Africa ready to force hands together and join to form one giant economy or one giant African that prospers politically, socially, and economically? If we have no objective and goal, then we are not yet to get there. Because Miriam, when you come to our individual countries, we have things that divide us most. We have things that not make us not to come as an integrated countries. Miriam, we can't unite as African continent when in our countries, in our individual countries, we are more divided. We can't solve our issues as a team. Then that one is a challenge. We can't unite when we have leaders who have no objective of uniting their countries or uniting their communities. Then we are heading on the wrong direction. Miriam, in order of Africa to unite and to have one voice, then we need to come up and structure ways and have unity in our countries, in our region, maybe in East Africa, in South Africa, in West Africa. Then we come together and join hands. The issue of our tribes, Miriam, also is a major challenge. We can't unite when we have the nomadics fighting with those people who do farmings. We can't unite when we have the Fulani and the Igbo in Nigeria fighting with things that don't make a lot of sense. We can't unite when we speak English, see ourselves as superior than those who speak French, or those who speak French see themselves as superior than others. We can't unite, Miriam, when the issue of religion remains a disaster in this continent. Miriam, when you touch the issue of religion, people start jumping up and down, and they can erupt, and you can find yourself in chaos. Therefore, we need to come on these issues that divide our countries. Then we solve them so that we can solve what divides us as Africans. If we can sort the issue of our religion and we make it thing that can unite us, when we can bring our communities, our tribes, as a means of diversity that we can celebrate rather than things that can make us fight, then we can achieve that. And we'll do that if our economy is better. We can't unite when Africa is miles away ahead than other countries, when Kenya is doing better than other countries. There is that feeling of bitterness towards other countries that are prospering economically. So we must bring equality into this country that are down there, so that we can have a level playing ground in terms of economic prosperity. Because when we merge together, some countries might see as if they lose, and the giant economies will benefit. We have a long way to go, and Africa unity is squeezing water from a stone. It is almost impossible. Thank you.
That is not even almost, that is just impossible there, Chairman Karanja. So what you're saying is, you know, there are a lot of other factors, and religion, I think, is quite at play there. And you've talked about, you know, some anger towards other countries. I wouldn't call it anger, but perhaps some level of jealousy. We saw when Kenya was bagging all these international positions, and we saw even when Kenya was seeking for these positions, even our immediate neighbor did not vote for us. So it's more about envy. You know, they feel you're already the king of this block, and now you think you want to get another position internationally. We will not vote for you. And we saw how that played out there.
Yeah,
so it's more of envy. It's more envy. All right, thank you so much. Musa.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I will go direct to the point. As long as we are blaming on neocolonial powers, you know, as long as we are blaming on our diversity, as long as we are blaming on our religion, Miriam, the point is very clear. I will go directly to mental emancipation. It's very simple. Until that kid in Africa, until that lady in Africa will see that indeed in the year 2010, South Africa became the first African nation to host World Cup. And indeed, South Africa, Zambia, and any other African country can produce a World Cup winning team by only, you know, all the time relying that, you know, we are busy watching, you know, European football. We are busy following, you know, westernized music. Then we shall never unite. It's all about mental emancipation. Ask a kid today if they can pronounce, you know, or name one African musician, be it Oliver Mtukudzi or Alus Mabele or Franco Macchiadi, but they will very easily remember Chris Brown. They will easily remember, you know, Tupac Shakur. They will easily remember Ed Sheeran, these musicians from the West. It all starts with mental emancipation, Miriam. And I believe there is one problem we have as Africans. Today in Kenya, the problem I have, if I will stand in the National Assembly and I speak Kiswahili, I will be proved to be more of a stupid and a numb person than a person who is speaking English. We've made in Africa that English is a measure of intelligence, and yet we know very well such kind of languages is just a means of communication. That is the reason why Russians, with all their ignorance, speak Russian language in United Nations. The Chinese do the same to Mandarin. We've really failed even behind our history. That, Miriam, we cannot talk about the Ndebele Kingdom. We cannot talk about Kabaka Mutesa, Kabaka Mwanga. We cannot talk about the rulership of, you know, the Mandinga Empire in the Western world. But we are busy taught in our books about Winston Churchill, Napoleon Bonaparte. Look at our sense of education, Miriam. How can we unite when you are told Africa is a third world country and United States of America is a first world, where every kid's dream is to go to United States of America? Ask a kid today who is Pitso Mosimane, the coach from South Africa, who is the first African coach to take Al Ahly Football Club to FIFA Club World Cup semi-final. They know nothing about this, Miriam. Ask today who was the first president of South Africa, or who is the first president of Botswana. What is the capital city name? They know nothing. But you tell them what is New York, what is Pennsylvania. It's all has been, you know, in our mental emancipation. Dr. Matsanga will tell me, you remember very well, Dr. Matsanga, when United States of America were conducting its elections, all the Kenyans were speaking of Pennsylvania, Biden, Cook County, Texas. But come and tell, ask a kid who is Eduardo Mondlane, ask them who is Samora Machel, ask them who is Toma Isidore Sankara, ask them who is Abdoulaye Wade, ask them who is Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. They know nothing, but they'll be busy. You know, this has been mental emancipation, and I believe until the time we believe that as Africans we are superior. As Africans, we believe that we can have a nuclear power plant. We can have the first, you know, lady to go, or a man to go to astronaut, to go into space, to land into Mars. That is the very time we can go into neocolonialism agenda. We can go into borderless issue. We can go into capitalism issue, Miriam. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mental emancipation there. And you're saying we've been given this tag of third world, and we have proudly been wearing it around. We've owned it, and we're living it. Quite unfortunate there. Abigail Mupambi. Is Abigail there?
Abigail?
Oh,
yes.
Thanks so very much.
Okay, the reception, not very good. Abigail, your reception is not very good. Work on it, and then you can join us back. Please work on it. Get a place where we can get clear reception. Okay, I'll move to Gugu Nkube. Gugu, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
Very well, and nice to have you.
Okay, my view is that. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Very loud and clear.
Okay, my view is that first question that I will ask myself when we're talking about Africa integrating is what made us to be divided in the first place? Mm-hmm. If you go back to our history, we're united, we're integrated. That was before our colonizers came in and divided us, cutting Africa into the pieces that suited them at that time. So in my view, I think we can still integrate if only we can, be emancipated from mental slavery. The fact that you are looking at me and already you are seeing a Zimbabwean, that is the first label that you're putting on me. When you look at me, you should be able to see an African. That's the first label that should come into your mind. But as you are looking at me right now, you only see a Zimbabwean, not an African. The African part of it comes after seeing a Zimbabwean. So we need to move away from that. That is number one. Number two, I'm going to use South Africa as a case study. If you look at South Africa, there are constant outbreaks of xenophobia. South Africa is a good example of Africa integrated because there is almost all the Africans living in South Africa. What exactly is causing the xenophobic outbreaks? It is the wrestling of against resources, limited resources. So once the African leaders address the distribution of resources, I think it will be possible for Africans to integrate. That is number two. Number three, we need to look at the African leaders themselves. Unfortunately, we have got so much selfish African leaders that none of them is going to actually agree to submit under any of the leaders. Africa integrated will actually mean that there is one leader overseeing the whole of Africa. So now let's look at our presidents. Who currently is going to agree to submit or report to another president currently? We are almost close to none of those leaders is going to want to report to another president. Mm-hmm. To me, it's a matter of selfishness. Our leaders are so selfish that the integration of Africa is, they are going to make it almost impossible. Again, you look at the issue of languages. I want to support what one of the speakers said. We have come, we're in a situation whereby we are still using the oppressors' languages. And the fact that we still have French and English as, the international, so-called international languages, why must Africans be forced to fit in that international space? Now, have you ever heard any white person, any European coming to Africa and speaking Swahili, any European coming to Africa and speaking isiNdebele, isiXhosa? None of them. But we are forcing ourselves to speak English because we have identified English and French as the so-called international languages. That is, it goes back to mental slavery. Mm-hmm. Until we emancipate ourselves from that mental state, then we are doomed as Africans. I look at you, I see an Ugandan. I look at you, I see a Nigerian. I look at you, I see a Zimbabwean. And that is going to work against us. That's my submission. Mm-hmm.
Very well said there, Gugu. And when the xenophobia was happening there in South Africa, I could not understand for the life of me how another African would call another African a foreigner. Like, until today, I still try to wrap my mind around that idea. I just don't get it. Douglas, no, I see Abigail Mupambi is back on the line. Abigail, are you able to speak now?
Thank you so very much, Miriam. I will try to use the audio.
Much better.
Go ahead. Hope you can.
Yes.
I hope you can relate to. You can hear me.
Much better.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Right. My submission is that it is a yes and a no at the same time. Why? Because if you look back during the colonial era, Africa managed to find each other. There is no single African country that managed to attain independence without the help and assistance of fellow African country. That's probably the vision behind such is the very vision that led to the formation of the OAU, which is now the AU. So we needed the intergenerational knowledge and vision transfer into the current generation, so that by that push we have rising leaders who relate to the very vision that we are trying to chase at the moment. Yes, it's possible. Why? If such a vision, a shared continental vision is in place, and we know the objectives, probably we need to revisit the objectives of the AU if it is still the very same objectives upon which the current generation, the rising leaders, can relate to. So when we don't have a clear vision, every direction becomes correct. When we don't know where we want to go, every direction will seem correct in the eyes of everyone. So that then becomes commotion. And this is where we are right now as a continent. Every nation is defining its own vision, parallel and against each other. And of course, we can't underrate the damage that has been caused by neo-colonialism. So this is something that we can do if we relate back to the vision. We go back to the drawing board and say, what is our rallying point? So basically, I think this is where my yes is coming in from. But my no also comes in to say, are we prepared to take up the challenge? Are we prepared as a citizenry? Are we prepared as a leadership? But so far, if you look at the leadership right now, there is no political will to have a united, in particular, the united Africa, borrowing it from even the late President Muammar Gaddafi. So I think we need to do something as a leadership and as a citizenry, as activists, who is relating to that, or we are competing against each other instead of complementing each other. We need to do away with the self-hate. We need to do away with self-hate and build confidence among and within ourselves that, yes, we can do it. And I think we need to ride on the right spirit, because all this that we are suffering today is a thing that was designed. It was put on our minds at some point to say we are inferior to the white. So we can go back to the drawing board and begin to preach the right gospel, the right propaganda upon which a movement for such can be built upon. My submissions, Miriam.
Thank you so much, Abigail. Yes, we are branded the third world, the dark continent, and we gladly accept that tag. And as I said there earlier, and we're leaving it. Yes, and you say there, we have unhealthy competition that is going on around this country, around African countries. Instead, you're saying if we could start complementing each other, then perhaps better days lie ahead of us. Douglas Kiremi.
Thank you, Miriam. And we need to understand that Africa can never be integrated, because why and when will we be integrated when people of Western Sahara still continue fighting for their own independence from Morocco? When will we be united as Africans or integrated as Africans when South Africa, when the former AU chairman Cyril Ramaphosa continues to discriminate against Zimbabweans when he crossed the border for Zimbabweans to enter South Africa? When will we be integrated as a people of Africa? When you fight for the people of Somalia, the people who continue aiding the dictator in power, Mohamed Farmajo, who accuse you of discriminating against their own country. When you touch Uganda, when you touch the dictator in Uganda, the people who continue aiding and also supporting the dictator in power will say you are interfering with their sovereignty. When will we be united? When Bosise continues to enjoy power, support and also power from other African ends of state to continue sabotaging the government in Central African Republic? When will we be united as Africans? When we keep shutting our eyes to evils that are being committed by foreign huntsmen in Nigeria, and the president in that country cannot be questioned by anyone, including ECOWAS or including AU. Nobody can be able to talk or open their mouths concerning such matters. When will we be united as Africans? When we Africans, we cannot or continue as the people of Africa to support each other, when we cannot support fellow Africans, when we continue downgrading and also not treating Africans fairly, we treat white people more than we treat Africans. We treat them better than we treat Africans. When will we be united as Africans? And that's my submission. We shall never be integrated, Miriam. Thank you.
Oh boy, oh boy. This unity is really doomed from the start here. Thank you so much, Douglas Kirimi. So much I feel we need to work on as Africans and as a continent, but also as individual countries. I'll now like to bring in Alcatraz. What's your opinion on the African unity that has forever remained elusive, and what are some of the factors that you think hinder this unity? Alcatraz. Alcatraz, can you hear me? Okay, so Alcatraz, we're not able to hear what he has to say there. So perhaps,
Are you there, Alcatraz? Mr. Alcatraz,
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Can you hear me, Miriam?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Miriam is hearing you loud.
Okay. Yes, I'm more interested in poverty, those cases in Africa. That's my submission will be Jehovah. This can be traced as the causes of liberation struggle fought across Africa. But did those wars brought any difference except pain and suffering, death to general populace? The expected integration was never witnessed. That's when neo-colonialism come to play. How they are monopolized by politicians and resulting in civil wars instead of civil integration. Giving examples of DRC, Nigeria, and so forth. You may also observe the blind ear applied by the regional blocs, e.g. SADC, ECOWAS, AU, at large, in solving these disputes which are interfering in the integration of the whole Great Africa. We may also observe the African nations in reintegration of other nations have become pawns in development display of our superpowers like USA and Europe for foreign investment in comparison to the West. Our problem in Africa, the greatest is that needs attention are two. The first one is tribal inclination. Africa is perhaps the only continent where one country has many tribes. The tribal differences, tribal supremacy, lack of trust in different beliefs, which extends to religion. The second one is the imposed educational system. I call it imposed because it was imposed. The current educational systems must be done away with the total difference which have led to untold conflicts. It is simply instructions given to the feeble-minded, don't mind their physical strength, but they are elders, and they follow such instructions with given a grain of thought. How then do we integrate a shattered continent? Our continent is fragmented. I submit.
All right, very well. Thank you so much. Two issues that come there, that we lack trust among each other here in the continent, and also the education system that we were left with, and we went and adopted it, and we've not been able to really localize it according to our own different needs in these African countries. So how can we rectify these two? I'll go to, I don't know if Motion is still there.
Motion is gone. I think this is second round. Miriam, can I take it?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, Miriam, I will not take long time this time. Just a few minutes. What? Poverty of faith. Poverty of faith. And I agree with Musa. We have been criminalized. In fact, Musa forgot to say our minds have been criminalized. Don't say we have mentally inflamed. We have been criminalized. The Muzungu came and bought us, taught us how to buy others and how to use others. So we criminalized each other generation by generation. Poverty of faith. Poverty of faith. Of faith. You know, when you don't have faith in each other, you cannot stand. Faith is gone. Have you seen how Africans, you go to London and see how Africans backbite each other? One tells you this is from Nigeria. This one is from Cameroon. Look at the way he looks. Poverty of faith. We don't have confidence in ourselves. Another second point, commitment. Do we have a commitment to unite, to integrate? Where is it? We say this today, we do the other thing tomorrow. We say there is no visa. Uganda has given a visa. Out of all these African countries, it is only Uganda that gives Somali a visa on entry. Every African country fears Somalia. Now you call yourselves Africans. Have you heard? Everybody on the panel is quiet now. That any man from Mogadishu tried to arrive by accident in the Johannesburg airport. They could even bring nuclear weapon to arrest him. You know? Everybody fears Somalia. But it's only Uganda that gives Somalia a visa on entry. Why can't we go in the troubled waters? Another point that was brought, which we might highlight. Sahara, the Sahara West African state, Morocco annexed this state. Today they are still crying for independence. Nobody can be firm enough to stand and say, no way, Morocco don't come back until you give Saharis their independence. We fear. We have fear. We have no confidence in ourselves. Another disease we have as Africans, ego. Ego. E-G-O. Ego. Ego. You remember when you talk about Kagame? Kagame, before you finish the sentence, he says, I know. So how are you going to tell him? No, if you have gone for his meeting in the office, yes, I know that one. So what will you tell him? As another point we have, Miriam, which I wanted to add on, we are very ignorant. We are ignorant about even, do you know, if you ask Africans how many governors they know in their country, the name by name,
it will be a suicide.
It's a suicide question. If I ask you now on this panel, some of you will close your tablets. Very few people can name 20 governors. Or there are people they know, okay, let's not go to governors. Cabinet. Very few people can name 10 names of cabinet of their own country. Yes, he doesn't know the minister of health, yet he works in the Ministry of Health. At least for me, doctor, I know the Minister of Health of Kenya. I know the Minister of Health of Uganda. I know the Minister of Health of Tanzania. I know the Minister of Health of Zimbabwe. General Constantine Chiwenga, my comrade friend. I know him. I know the Minister of South Africa. I know the Minister, what can I tell you? The Minister of Sudan, South Sudan. I'll tell you this, the Minister of Health, Madam Minister. I know. But there are people who are ignorant, who have been misled by now the latest technology of digital platform. Before you can't give them a test unless for them to give you answers, you throw away the phones. Throw away the phone from an African today. A current African, throw away a phone from him. He will be the most useless creature on the planet. If you throw away the Google phone, this Google phone here, Google, not Google, madam, I'm sorry. The Google, if I throw away madam there will be no answers at all. Ignorance has kept us intact backward for a long time. The last point I want to make, how many people on this panel know their football team by name? Footballers.
Yes.
Yeah, at least you know. At least for me in Kenya, I can name a few. But some of them know all the players of Manchester United.
Very true.
Look at that paradigm. Let's look at it. Look at how we are enslaved mentally. The
other day, Daktari,
yes.
There was this South African coach, Pitso Mosimane.
Yes.
He broke the record by being the first African coach to reach a semi-final of a Continental Cup. So I posted on Facebook and I said, congratulations, Pitso, because his name is Pitso. You know, people are asking me, why can't you talk about Chelsea? Why can't you talk about Barcelona?
In fact, if you want to break a home in Africa, start football of Europe. A wife will tell you, you will not sleep in this bedroom. If you are Chelsea, go. And then you ask your wife, who is it? Do you know what the Chelsea, where it is situated? Where about is it? He said it was in Hungary. Yeah? No, Chelsea is in London. Madam, but you are now chasing me out of the house. Look, we copy a lot of things, especially this month, where we copied Valentine's Day. So many men and carried flowers. I am sorry for me, I am not a victim. Flowers, they carry the flowers. When you find a man and stop him, a very well-dressed guy, what is this? You are going where? You mean there can be no love without flowers? I can love without flowers. Love is handsomeness, beauty. You can bring 2 million flowers a ton. You can ask President Uhuru Kenyatta to give you a full plane of Kenya Airways to deliver flowers at the doorsteps of where your lover is. But if you are not handsome, zero. Otherwise, how could Prince Charles lose Diana? How? No, you tell me, answer me. In Britain here, we talk freely about the family. We don't insult them. How did she? Because Prince Charles chose to ride horse and did not know that there was a beauty. So we have a problem. We know the names of the footballers in London. At least for me, I have to converse also, even me. But the problem is I've lived there for 36 years. So if it is assimilation, I've been assimilated. So don't blame me too much if you see me making mistakes. But people who are fresh on the African continent, surely, you don't know the names of your footballers? You don't know the names of your ministers? You don't know. There are some people in Congo who don't know that Mobutu died a long time ago. Do you know? There are some people in Congo who don't know. So we have a lot of obstacles, impediments that have made Africa unity impossible. Then we have the final thing. You know the behavior? If anybody has read the book, The Lion and the Jewel, you remember that character called Lakunule. Lakunule. Dr. Gugu will know who Lakunule is, the character of Walt Senyika, that book, The Lion and the Jewel. That Lakunule came from Britain with trousers. He thought he has now the only one, because he left Africans wearing skins of animals. So he came back with trousers and said, I'm the only guy around here. We behave like a Lakunule. Perhaps Mbeki was right when he said, Miriam, that let's do an African renaissance. Does Africa need a renaissance? Yes. Does African Union need a renaissance, a revamp? Yes, I submit. But integration for now, forget it. Uhuru Kenyatta gives Nigerians entry in Nigeria. Kenyans, when you are going to Nigeria, you have to take your passport in Kenya. First, they see it before you enter Lagos airport. Have you seen that? South Africans enter freely and Zimbabweans enter freely in Kenya. You get the visa but because Zimbabwe and Kenya have a free trade pact of COMESA, so there is no stamp needing a visa. But a South African, if you are going to South Africa, you need to carry your father's land title, the date of birth of your father, the certificate of the death of your mother, then you present to South Africa, and a small girl who doesn't even know a boy standing in the counter there, bring this, bring that, bring that. That's Africa. Can Africa unite with such obstacles? Perhaps the next generation of Musa, perhaps the next generation of Saxon, perhaps the next generation of Kirimi Javan, 50 years to come, you might unite. But our generation of Kwame Nkrumahs, or the generation of the Matangas, of the Rairas, the generation of the Uhuru Kenyatas, the generation of Museveni, when Gaddafi suggested unity of Africa, do you know what happened? Museveni was the first person to oppose Gaddafi. Did you see that conference? Musa, did you see what happened there?
I watched the full.
The first person to oppose Muammar Gaddafi. Why? Ego. Because he knew that once Muammar Gaddafi unites Africa, for him, it is Muammar Gaddafi. Yet, it was Muammar Gaddafi who gave Museveni arms to go and overthrow the junta in Kampala. It was Muammar Gaddafi who gave Mandela arms to overthrow apartheid. It is Muammar Gaddafi who gave Zimbabwe. The only man who stood with Muammar Gaddafi in that conference, I was there. The only man who stood with Muammar Gaddafi was Robert Gabriel Mugabe. Long live Baba. Long live you gone. Let God give you a safe place to stay. You are a real Pan-African. Mugabe, today, as I finished, look at the ICC, look at the ICJ. You tell Africans to leave ICC. Botswana will be the first country to run back. Botswana, Gaborone, if you give me, even if you give me $2 million to go to Gaborone, I will never go. Never invite me there, anybody in Harare. Thinking of inviting me across there. Don't invite me, we meet in Gaborone. That thing has made me don't like everything there. Because they go back and say, no, aware of this, we are with the ICC. They always undermine you. Why? It is a country of NGOs. There's no government in Gaborone. There are international NGOs ruling in Gaborone, in Botswana. There is no government there. That's why you see Hama and Masisi are quarreling every morning. In fact, Hama would like to go back and use the army to overthrow Masisi if he had the chance. Because Masisi is trying to remove the country away from NGO money. Botswana relies on NGO. There is nothing in Botswana. How do you produce diamond and then you cannot make a diamond ring? Miriam and the panel, had you known that you can produce diamond and you don't make a diamond ring? Is there any country in Africa that makes a diamond ring? Show me one. Even in South Africa, there are no. Is there a shop in South Africa? Maybe Google can tell us. Is there a shop?
I haven't seen any, Doc, but I think those are some of the things that we as Africans we need to look at and make use of our own resources than calling other people to process our own resources or taking our resources to other people that have got no interest in our well-being. I think it's worth looking at.
Okay, thank you very much, Miriam. There is another lady who has just joined us by name Esther Vogai. Esther Vogai, are you? You can call her. I submit, therefore, it will take long for Africa to unite. And that is my integration view. They will not. There will always be obstacles. And as we are on air, 24 counties 25. Squared it out. 24 counties in Kenya have voted to have BBI referendum. I felt I should bring, for the people on the panel who don't know what BBI is, it is something that is going to change the governance of this country called Republic of Kenya, so that it stabilizes towards integration. That is the one good step, Miriam. I want the panel to feel hallelujah. 24 counties, Super Tuesday, we have made it. We are now ready for the referendum. Thank you very much, Kenyans. I wish you good luck. For me, I'm very happy now I can rest a bit and listen to the panel. Thank you, Miriam. Back to you. There is Esther Vogai. I don't know the other name. Esther Vogai. Esther Vogai. Tatenda Esther, are you there?
All right. So I'd like to get
Yes, Doc, I'm here. Esther Vongai here from Zimbabwe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miriam will give you a cue.
All right, so I will be having our final submissions, but I'll start with you, Esther. And we've been looking at Africa integration, something that has remained elusive, and we saw that was one of the key dreams of our founding fathers here in the continent, and that led to the formation of OAU, the Organization of African Unity, in 1963. But that dream has remained just that, a dream, and that has not been able to be realized. So from where you sit, I don't know, what are some of the factors that have hindered this dream? You tell us that, and then maybe you give us the last submissions there.
Okay, I was just following the conversation, which is very rich. Thank you so much, Doc, for the comments that you made. Because I'm thinking of this from a perspective where, like the instance where Doc was saying that we can't produce a diamond ring in Africa. I'm trying to think, okay, so how old is the African continent? When is it that we managed to get our liberation? For instance, here in Zim, it's now 41 years. So what is it that has led to us being so underdeveloped? What is it that has led South Africa after so many years of independence? What is it that has led Kenya after so many years of independence? Mm-hmm. Not being in that capacity where we can be able to finally produce some of the things that we need to produce. Why is it we're having all of that? In Botswana, why is it that it is an NGO-run country? Why is it that we're still in this position that we're in? I think it now all goes down to us, even as citizens. I'm in Zimbabwe, where we are not fully much equipped in terms of what democracy entails, the type of leaders that we have, that we impose, and also defining what we want, and also defining on the type of democracy that we want as a continent or as a people. Is it the democracy that is Western, or it is the type of rulership that we used to have before colonization, where we used to have a king? And I'm thinking here in Zimbabwe, I mean, we used to do quite a lot of things, eh? You start looking at the way that the Great Zimbabwe was built up. It was pure geniusness. But since the white person came, they came and ruined everything for us, to the extent that we can't even build a station where we can make rings, where we can make gold or diamond rings, yet these are our natural resources. So I think it all boils down to us as individuals, or to us as nationalities in our different, specific countries, where we are not fully much equipped, or where we even don't know, where we are now tired in terms of influencing the type of these leaders that we put. Because for far too long, I feel that for especially me as a young person, I'm thinking to myself that we are now so docile to standing up for when we see red flags in government, when we see incompetent leaders in government. Right now here in Zimbabwe, there's a whole lot of lootings that have happened, and people are just quiet about it. We've now just become relaxed to the extent that we see to it that more than millions meant for COVID funds are being looted, and we just keep quiet about it. I mean, I'm now also thinking of what is happening in South Africa, where Jacob Zuma is clearly violating the constitution, the constitutional court, and people are not raising red flags about it. People are just quiet about it. I think it's now becoming an African trend where us as citizens, I don't know what exactly happened. I don't know. Maybe it's part of, I don't know. I honestly, I can't think of a reason why we are these people that we are today. So it's from the conversation, I think it's now up to us to do so much research and to do so much introspection on what exactly it is that we need to do. Because I mean, Doc was really raising pertinent questions. If Kagame is saying that he knows it all, then obviously there's no room for engagement, there's no room for dialogue, there's no room for improvement. So it's a really a big task that I'm now, as I'm sitting here at home, I'm thinking to myself, okay, these are the bitter truths that we now need to start thinking about and starting having conversations on. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bongai.
Miriam, can I come in there?
Go ahead, Nkube. As you give your last submission.
My question is directed to Esther. Esther spoke about the looting that is happening in Zimbabwe. I take interest in that. What have you seen? What are the evidence? What are the pieces of evidence that you have that point to the looting, and who specifically are those people that are looting? For example, you mentioned the COVID-19 resources. And again, I'm going to come to the issue of Jacob Zuma. You spoke about Jacob Zuma. I think you need to understand that as Africans, Jacob Zuma is basically, many might view him as somebody who is corrupt, but this is politics. And there is no way Jacob Zuma can be arrested for the alleged crimes that people are saying he committed. Where was Cyril Ramaphosa at that time? What is Cyril Ramaphosa doing? I can as well as bring it up that Cyril Ramaphosa is a project for the West, which we cannot tolerate in Africa. During Jacob Zuma's tenure, the xenophobic attacks, Jacob Zuma will come out immediately as the attacks starting. Last year, in 2019, there were xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Cyril Ramaphosa went on hibernation and took almost a week to speak out and stop the violation against other Africans. So I'm not so sure there. I'm just seeking for clarity on the issue of corruption in Zimbabwe. We are the specific individuals that are probably, perpetrating corruption on COVID-19 resources and yeah.
All right, Bongai, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead.
I think these are just of icebergs. Like I'm saying that we are where we are as a continent because we've let so many things go into play. And now we've allowed politics as well, politicians, to be going after each other when it suits them. But it's an entire system. I mean, for us here in Zimbabwe, it goes without saying that, like I told you, that it's now 40 years after independence. And when you come here in Zim, if you get just across, I was in South Africa recently. If you cross from Messina into Beitbridge, you already see that things are already different, but yet we've got so many resources. And now you start thinking, okay, is it now that we do not have these resources, or it's now an issue of administration? And when we now start trying to tackling it down, it doesn't need rocket science. It just needs you being on the ground to see that, okay, maybe something right here is wrong. People are underutilizing our resources. It's either people are underutilizing our resources, or it's just corruption or mismanagement that is happening.
And you
with
brought
the issue of
you brought up the issue of corruption, and Kube wanted for you to, if you can cite specific examples and maybe specific issues there.
Right now, we used to have a minister of health. What was his name?
The one that was fired.
We call him DJ Biscuit because he was once a DJ. He got fired because he looted more than 5 million, and his case is already at the courts. And he was actually arrested for it, but we never had any.
But that is a good thing, right? That is a good thing. He was mentioned on corruption. He was fired. His case is now in the courts. So I think that is a good thing, right?
It's not. You know what? Because it's a system. It is a system. When someone now let's allow Bongai.
Let's system that was got by the majority of Zimbabweans. Okay. Now, where were you? You understand? I've got a problem with Zimbabweans that are not going to go to the polling stations.
I'd like Bongai
talking on.
All right, I'd like Bongai to conclude.
Can I tell you something from a point of personal experience?
Go ahead, Bongai.
That's okay. On the 31st of July, there was a shutdown that happened here in Zimbabwe. People like Hopo Chingono, Jacob Garuvume, and all other activists, some other activists were arrested leading up to that event. But they were arrested because they were told because they were said that they incited violence. And soon after
didn't they incite violence? Esther, can I interject you there? You are saying it was alleged that they incited violence. Didn't they incite violence? What does the Constitution say? Zimbabwe is a sovereign state. It has got the laws.
It is an allegation because it's something which is still at the courts. There's not much evidence to prove to it because they've got their lawyers who are saying that, well, they didn't incite violence. But I want to show you something out of personal experience, which shows that the selective application of the law in Zimbabwe. And soon after, the spokesperson of the ruling party, Papu Chinamasa, he then goes on TV, and then he makes terrible statements where he is inciting ZANU-PF young people to go in the streets and discipline or beat up anyone who wants to destroy property or who wants to tarnish the ZANU-PF brand. I personally took it upon myself. I am a convict myself of being allegedly to have committed a crime in the sense of inciting violence. And then I went to the police and said, you know what, Mr. Chinamasa, I think Mr. Chinamasa should be arrested because he incited violence. Do you know what the police wanted to do in turn? They wanted to abduct me. Thank God that I was reading whatever it is that was happening that day on Twitter. And that is how I got saved.
All right.
They wanted to abduct me when I went to report for inciting violence.
Esther Bongai, let me come in here. Grievances of national countries, like nations, once you are arrested and taken to court, we leave the courts to make a decision. That's point number one. Point number two, I know your differences. I know what you want to Google yourself and Abigail. At least the panel must know that you come from different type of that's why we allow this platform to air your views. But when you now bring in allegations that we cannot give evidence, for example, when you say you are arrested, it is like this platform here does not go, whom are we going to ask whether you arrest you or not? It is your word against ourselves and your word against the others. So
no, but then it's there on Google. I mean, it's there on Google.
Okay.
All right.
That it is. I'm
made your point. We have allowed you to make your point. It is a national platform. It's a platform of Africa. How do we move Africa forward? Is what we want. We know we have all these mistakes. We have ministers stealing. We have corruption is everywhere. Esther, it is not only in Zimbabwe. Even in London, the minister was also arrested. Actually, he lost a job. He's under investigation by Parliament. COVID money everywhere, Esther, has created a pocket where people collect money. So
I'm in total agreement, Doc.
So Bongai, perhaps what are some of the solutions?
Let us try to look at it from a macro level, building up.
Yes.
Bottom up, not starting say, okay, as the AU, what is it that they can do? As STADA, what is it that they can do? It needs to start internally in countries where we have a culture of ethical and transformational leaders.
All right. So we have to start from individual
we shall
countries.
Give one of these days, Medium, we shall think of giving Zimbabwe the platform between ZANU-PF and the MDC. They hammered it each other here. It will be, Abigail, what do you think? We wanted to have these people who criticize from backyard can be. So, Esther, are you ready to have a showdown here?
All right.
Yes.
I think.
Are you ready to stand in the fire of ZANU-PF versus MDC? We shall create a day for you, all of you, two of you.
It's not standing in the fire. It is looking at things from a factual point of view.
All right.
Those two parties.
Thank you so
they are
much.
not safe on their own.
Thank you.
And I can
Esther.
take them head on, taking them to account on what it is that they stand for. On
All
their
right, and that is for another day. Our topic of today. Let's not wonder so much. Our topic of today: will Africa ever integrate?
Come in. Let's hear your views. Don't undermine the government from far. Undermine it here. Then we challenge you. All these people will challenge you. And if you are right, we shall say you are right. Thank you. You are welcome.
All right.
It's a platform for Africa.
So our topic of today was, will Africa ever integrate, and when? And of course, we've given our different views and a lot of challenges that we face in this continent. So now what I want to hear is perhaps how some of the solutions and how some of these issues can be addressed if at all Africa will be united. So I'd appreciate if we'll just keep it there. And so I'll start with, I think, Abigail, you're on the line. So as we make our final conclusion. Our final submissions.
Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy by the coming up of my young sister, Wangai, up there. And of course, I understand her at personal level, but at a macro level, I wanted probably to be allowed to respond to this, that at least I know she understands that in Zimbabwe there is now a new industry, lies for sale. How do then people understand or begin to buy in that there is looting? It's just called looting. We need to begin to zero in and say, here is case A, B, C, D. That was never attended to.
Yes.
And I want personally to applaud the government and in particular the president for taking action after Minister Obadiah was found wanting in terms of stealing the COVID money. So I don't know if there is an argument to that nature, but take note, in Zimbabwe we know very well that our own activism, which we stood for some of us for over 10 years, including Wangai included, the very Wangai, my young sister there. She knows very well that we have a divided activism, a divided and a is for sale. So we need to be clear to say your issue may be exceptional from that, but let's not take personal issues to say this is what is happening everywhere. So I really understand here at some level, but at a macro level, we want to introspect every report and be able to say, can we sustain certain allegations, and at what extent? And of course, this speaks to a divided nation, a divided Africa. To what road can we start? What agendas can we set today for an integrated Africa? And of course, Dr. Matsanga, you said you don't see it coming. I see it coming, but we need to commit to it as Africans. I thank you.
Thank you so much. So we need that commitment. That will be the first step there. Thank you so much, Abigail Mupambi. Saxon.
I have no words today.
The challenge, what we need, I think, issue of infiltration, we cannot rule it out. I think integration is to do with people believing in themselves. I've been following how Zimbabwe is rolling out the issue of COVID-19 vaccine. You could tell that some people are not even concerned that government is doing something positive. You see, if people cannot applaud a very good move that is meant to save life, they will say, why did you opt for the Chinese vaccine? Why didn't you buy for the American or the British? You can tell how people are divided, mentally colonized. Up and until we start believing in ourselves, that's when Africa can be integrated. I think in DRC has been in wars, has got disturbance. If you trace who has been behind this infiltration, and the infiltrators, they just work with our people with a weak mind, who believe in white supremacists, who don't believe in themselves. So we can't integrate ourselves up until we start believing in ourselves as African people that we are capable, we are equal to other races, we are not inferior. I submit.
Okay, very well. Thank you so much. Abigail says as long as there's a will, the unity is possible. And now you've said that we should start believing and having confidence in who we are and what we have as a continent there. Thank you so much, Saxon. Jevan Karanja from Kenya.
Yes, Miriam?
Jevan, your final submissions. All right, I'll go to Mr. Philip Chibata.
Bata is gone, Miriam.
All right, Musa.
Google has done it.
No, I have a list. Okay. Musa, go ahead.
Coming through. Chibata is gone.
Musa, go ahead. Musa Haji from Kenya.
Yes, Miriam. Thank you so much. I think my submission is very simple. We've seen it is not a rocket science. It's something which has been happening. It has even happened, in the forum we are very ready in. We have seen the differences we are having as Africans. But it's our challenge. It's a challenge to us, Dr. Matsanga and everyone, that one day even Dr. Matsanga give us a challenge on this forum. Everyone speaks Kiswahili. That is the only way maybe we can see, that gradual change of, mental emancipation. And we see ourselves, not being called Global South all the time, not being called, malnourished countries, not being the haven for NGOs. Let it be one day that Dr. Matsanga can go to London and rename River Thames and says, I'm the first African to have discovered this river and I call it River Matsanga. The same way they have been doing to us by telling us the first human being to discover Mount Kenya is Ludwig Krapf, and as if Douglas Kirimi's ancestors were not alive there. It's something, they have taken as a good readers for too long, and I believe. The other day, Dr. Matsanga, I got a scholarship to Turkey. Actually, I got a scholarship to be fully financed by the Turkish government, and I was in second year of my university, and those guys, they told me, you can go and apply, you can sit there, the first years you shall learn the Turkish language. I told them, fine. The best university I want to go to is the University of Pretoria. I want to go to Makerere University. I want to go to University of Dar es Salaam. You and we, the young people, we can be the agents of change we want to see in this continent. Let us follow the Mahatma Gandhi way. Be the change you want to see in this continent. And that is the only way we can go. And that is the only way, as Nkube and Vongai have said, that we can go from micro, medium, and to macro level. The destiny of Africa lies not with the Western world, lies not with China. The destiny and the success of Africa lies with Africans themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very well said, Musa Abdi Ahaji from Isiolo, northern part of Kenya. And now, Gugu, your final submission.
My final submission is that for as long as we have got some Africans that believe in the Western embassies, it is going to be very difficult for us as Africans to unite. It is. You wake up in the morning, you find one of the activists is posting that everybody must call the US embassy. If you have got a problem, we are a sovereign state. Why can't you come and talk to me as a sister so that we resolve whatever the conflict is there, than for you to go and look for the white man to come and, resolve such issues for us. That white man is not going to resolve issues for us. Instead, he is going to further divide us more. And I want to implore with Doc and officially request for a platform in which ZANU-PF is going to have a conversation with some MDC. We want to really understand what is their issue in Zimbabwe and all. And yeah, that's my final submission. It was merely a request for that specific meeting.
All right.
Request taken, and we shall notify you, madam.
Okay, thank you so much. Alcatraz.
We shall be the arbitrators.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, each side can arrange four.
Okay.
Please. And I hope Abigail is hearing this.
Okay, I'm going to
arrange four. We shall give you to Nataka. We want to see whether you can fight, but you will not fight on Zoom. So fight and we listen. We want to see the problem of Zimbabwe. What is it that it is the same problem, Miriam, everywhere in Africa? In the name of God, it's the same.
Doc, you get a leader of an opposition who is only up to peddling falsehood about Zimbabwe. We recently saw the spokesperson of the opposition past 2 weeks who was arrested for peddling lies. This is a spokesperson of an opposition party. An opposition is supposed to be useful in a country, not to cause divisions. Somebody is going to just go to Twitter and say, the police killed a minor, a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, and all the embassies are up in arms fighting the government of Zimbabwe. I really think we really need that platform so that we can talk about these issues.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nkobe. Alcatraz, I don't know if you're still there.
Is it gone, Miriam?
All
There
right.
is Esther. Give her
Douglas.
a chance also. Abigail.
Douglas,
Esther.
Abigail has made Douglas.
Thank you so much. Sister Abigail, would you want to go? Sister Abigail, go first.
Abigail already made her last submissions there.
Yeah,
so.
but Esther is there.
Oh, okay. This actually ended quite an interesting conversation. But I would want to suggest that for next time, that if we're ever going to have ZANU-PF and the MDC, let us also invite someone who is very much independent, someone who's on the ground, someone who is on the receiving end of the decisions or the inactions that these two political parties play. Because at the end of the day, it's not about ZANU-PF, neither is it about MDC. At the end of the day, it's about the bread and butter issues that every ordinary Zimbabwean is having to make. So we can look at these two political parties, but we now need to look at also on what this means for the ordinary person on the ground. And this is now where I come in and say, okay, yes, ZANU-PF might be saying this, MDC might be saying this, but what is actually on the ground, the lived realities of the ordinary person is like this. Because believe you me, if you invite ZANU-PF here, they'll come and tell you that there's nothing wrong in Zimbabwe. If you invite MDC, they'll come and tell you that everything is wrong in Zimbabwe. And what is it that these two political parties are doing? They're just playing politics. But at the end of the day, African Zimbabwean lives are the ones which have to endure the decisions that these two political parties make. And in conclusion, I'm all about transformational ethical leadership and renewal of leadership in Africa, and also in Zimbabwe, where we redefine the type of governance that we want as a people, where we redefine what is it that our priorities are. Are we pro donors? Are we pro NGO sector? Or are we now much more in terms of commerce, in terms of establishing or reviewing our minerals and our Pan-Africanism? So thank you so much. I'm very much looking forward to the next discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. This platform, Miriam will be the host. She will be neutral. We don't need anybody else. She is neutral. In that discussion, I will only be an observer because my interests, as far as Zimbabwe is concerned, are very clear. I want to make it very clear that I will not speak a word in that discussion. And I'm looking forward to being one of the African test cases that I'm going to bring almost 40 to 55 people on one platform in one day. And I will notify you. And I want us to argue. We might solve this problem once for all in an argument of this nature. We might solve it. We might find solutions when we have Miriam as a neutral arbiter. In the middle, I will not be involved because I have interests.
And I'm looking forward for a discussion, not an argument, really, and a discussion.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Very well. Douglas Kirimi. Douglas, are you there?
Thank you, Miriam. My final submission will be, in Africa, we need to stop the hypocrisy. In Africa, when you try helping an African,
Okay, so
you turn to be an enemy in the next minute.
we apologize. The audio of Mr.
For us
Douglas
to be able
Kirimi there is not very good. Not very good. We apologize there, but nevertheless, he had made his contribution there earlier, so perhaps next time he'll do that. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our panelists. Since morning now. It's almost 1 here, a few seconds to 1 p.m. here. Thank you, Saxon Svina. Thank you, Professor Jared Onyari, who left the conversation a bit earlier. Thank you, Javan, who also left the conversation a bit earlier. Musa Abdi Haji, Abigail Mupambi, Douglas Kirimi, Gugun Kube Alcatraz, Vongai. We had a new panelist today there from Zimbabwe, and also, of course, Dr. David Matsanga. And this has been Diplomatic Clicks. My name is Miriam Magoto. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.